So today we got Joe from the Third Web with us. He's going to be giving us a rundown on how to use some of the Third Web tools, and then maybe you could start out with just a quick intro of what the Third Web is. So it's nice to have you here today. If you want to take it away, go for it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, first off, thank you for having me, right? We've had kind of communications between the two channels, Monet and ThirdWeb, for a while now, and I'm glad that I am one of the individuals who is able to come and share a little bit about what ThirdWeb is to your community, kind of give you guys a template on how to get started and, you know, prime you guys and your community to get building for when that Monad network is live. So, quick agenda kind of setting here. I'm going to do a little bit about who I am, what their web is, what we offer, and then go into I've actually built out a demo site that we can go through and look at some of the different elements, the most common features that you're going to be looking at and trying to build out. Um, you know, quick intro. I'm Joe. I'm a solutions engineer here at ThirdWeb, and it's my job to help anyone and everyone build Web3 platforms, applications, businesses using ThirdWeb toolset, right? So we want to make it very, very easy. We want to make it super, super clear on how simple building on Web3 actually is with our toolset and the fact that it's just essentially a one-stop shop. So little bit about me. Anyone, I am looking at chat. I am looking at I'm familiar with these kinds of live spaces. So I'm going to be asking questions throughout the session as well. So first off, who here has heard about Third Web? Just throw it in the chat. Say, yeah, me, number one, what have you, real quick in the chat so I can get a gauge on kind of how well known these tool sets are. Kevin, of course, of course. In the meantime, me in the DC since early too. Okay, nope, heard of it. All right, so we have a big mix. I like it. I see Third Web almost every day. All right, Port, I want to talk to you later. I want to see what channels you're following because I feel like we can be best friends here. So let me actually share my screen here. I have a little Google slide demo that I want to share with you on my entire screen so we can easily switch. All right, and here we go. I believe everyone can see it. If you can't, let me know. Thumbs down in chat, thumbs up, and
I can see it. Yeah,
that back up.
we're good.
Oh, interesting. When I share, I can't see chat anymore. All right, Kevin, I'm relying on you, my friend.
All right, I got you. I will man the chat
Cool,
for you.
cool. All right, third web, right? What is third web? Who are we? What do we do? Third web, plain and simple. We're full stack, open source Web3 development platform. Now, what does that really mean, right? That's a lot of buzzwords, a lot of tech mumbo jumbo. Full stack, it means that we cover you from end to end in your front end builds, back end builds, anything you're doing with on chain. We got you. Third web is here to support you. Open source, we love open source communities, right? And that's a big decision and reason as to why we're open source. This means you can go to our GitHub repos. You can see exactly how we are performing certain functions. You can look at our contracts. You can look at our UI components, and you can use our GitHub repo as a base to start your own code base, right? You can use our GitHub repo as an example for building out your own tool set if you wanted to. Because we're open source, this is all free for you to use. You don't have to ask us for permission, right? You can go to the GitHub repo and do it today, even if you wanted to. Not only that, but we want to support all kinds of different platforms. We want to support whether you're building on TypeScript, React, Unity is a huge, huge driver for us here at ThirdWeb. We have a ton of people building games and saying, I want to add some blockchain to it. And they use ThirdWeb to do just that. So ThirdWeb truly is a full stack, every platform, open source Web3 development toolkit. And with that, we'll go a little bit over on kind of what front end, back end, and on chain means in terms of Web3 and ThirdWeb. But first off, as I mentioned, we want to support every platform that you guys are building on. So we have Unity SDKs, Solidity if you're building your own contracts, have those kinds as well. And we just came out recently with our .NET SDK. Any fans of Godot, if you're building games in Godot, this is great for you. If you're building Windows applications, this is a great option for you as well to incorporate that Web3 blockchain interaction into your own apps. Again, all for free. This is open source tooling. You guys can get, we have a very generous starter plan tier where you guys can get started. Here comes my cat to steal the show. There's his tail. And so this is something that I want you guys to be able to really feel comfortable with and know that, hey, if I want to build it, ThirdWeb has my back. ThirdWeb supports this platform for it. Going back into this kind of infographic, I'm going to give a quick highlight of what of these three different areas actually comprise. So for front end, what does that mean? If you're familiar with Web3 and blockchain, wallets, right? MetaMask, Coinbase, Coinbase Smart Wallet just came out. These are typically what's known as EOA wallets, and this is all living within the front end of your app. Front end is anything your user sees, interacts with, and so here is where we have our wallet connectors in-app wallets. These are social logins, right? Web3 is cool. Web3 is great. Not many people know about Web3, right? We really want to try and drive for a Web2 onboarding solution, and in-app wallets is a great place to start. What this lets us do is it lets us do things like bringing in users from Gmail, Discord, Twitter, uh, Farcaster is another login option that we have, Facebook, and you can use all of these sign-in methods to spin up a wallet for your users. And your user doesn't have to know anything about private keys. They don't have to know about seed phrases. It's all secured non-custodially for them in the backend. And of course, we've been talking about it beforehand as well a little bit, is our contract SDKs. We provide a huge suite of SDKs, as you saw, Unity, React, TypeScript, for interacting with your contracts on the blockchain and really just making it super simple for you to end to end build out your applications. We have some other stuff such as payments, which is a really great option. Their web pay is a on ramp. Think of it as a fiat on ramp for your users. You can also make NFT purchases with credit card through NFT Pay. And the beauty of it is we take a 1% service fee for payments, but 70% of that fee goes directly back to the developer. So you guys are making money on top of your initial application that you build out, on top of whatever kind of project that you might have. If you're selling NFTs, if you're selling merchandise, this is just another way for you guys to make a little bit extra money on the user base that come through your systems. And so with our front end, we also need a way to interact with our blockchain, right? We need an option to mess with contracts, deploy contracts. We need ways to essentially write the rules that will govern our applications. And to do that, ThirdWeb has a huge suite of audited and modular contracts. These contracts are known as pre-builts. And so with these contracts, it's very simple. All you have to do, and we'll go through it, the dashboard and what that looks like in a little bit. But if you select a pre-built contract, you deploy it on chain, and that's it. You don't have to write any Solidity, and you don't have to mess about with audits. And the beauty is that if you want to write your own Solidity code, if you want to have your own security audit provider, we also give you the option to do that. We have deployment tools that help you build out your own Solidity contracts. You can use our contracts as a base. You can build totally from scratch. This is really highly customizable and really focused on providing as much tools and value for the developers in the Web3 space. And so finally, as part of this these three pillars of ThirdWeb, we have our backend. Our backend is really focused into something we call ThirdWeb Engine, which we'll talk about a little bit later in this session as well. But just know that our backend has things like you can provide gasless transactions for your users. Huge, huge plus for anyone trying to bring in a Web2 audience. We can do things like automated gas and nonce management. And if you're familiar with relayers, maybe Biconomy was a popular one, Open Zeppelin, you had this kind of almost the same concept of a wallet that you would fund and this wallet is what uses is used to process transactions. It's used for gas management. We have a very similar process in our backend through Engine in and more, right? So not only can it do gas management, if a transaction fails, you can actually set up Engine to replay and retry these transactions until they succeed. The throughput on some of these Engine instances that we see is insane. I mean, we're talking about 100,000 plus transactions being sent through Engine and being successfully mined on chain. So for scalability, this is one of the biggest tools that I think you guys can benefit from. So real quick, I'm gonna stop right there. Any kind of questions? I really want this to be as interactive as possible. Any kind of questions seeing around this? Evan, I'm gonna have you ask, show me
Yes,
here.
I will
Oh,
read any in the chat if they come through. Not seeing anything right now. Feel free to unmute your mic and ask it out loud as well if you got any.
perfect,
Hi,
perfect.
this is Beksu. I have a question. I'm looking to your website. Is great and
Mhm.
it's awesome product. And I have developed a very simple toy games for Monad community before. So I leave the link here. So can I make that game upon your platform? Because I want to have the leaderboard, which requires some backend. And also there could be some features with wallet connection, but I didn't do in this game for now. I just implemented with some very simple JavaScript and HTML.
Yeah, yeah. So the beauty is that thirdweb, we actually encourage people to make great games first and then add blockchain afterwards, right? We want, especially in the gaming space. Hello, my cat. Once again, let me move him down a little bit. His name is Curry for anyone wondering. Trust me,
Here for
sometimes
the
he smells
cats.
like it. So as I was saying, we actually encourage individuals to build great games first, and then with our SDKs, again, I'll go through it in the presentation a little bit later, exactly how it's done. But we make it super simple, and I'm talking, if you're familiar with Unity, we have prefabs already, right? That you can build, come in, and pull into your game code. If you're using Godot, we have .NET SDKs that you can pull in. If you're not using any of that, guess what? Engine is still perfect for you because if you can make a fetch call, if you can make an API call to an endpoint, you can have blockchain transactions on your game. So that's an yes, or actually Bexu, sorry, Bexu. Yes, the answer is yes. If you've already built your game, you can still add a third web tooling to it after the fact.
Great, great. I will try to use.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. Click back in here. So now what I want to do is we have these concepts, right? We know front end, back end, on chain, and one of the pillars in front end is our connect. And so we actually have a very, let me see if I can, I'm doing a very fun way of performing. Just need to move this bar. There we go. All right. So we have a fun way of actually exploring with these components through our Connect. And so one of it is through our playground. This playground is live. It's something that everyone can go take a look at. And I'll actually put it here in the chat as well. So if anyone wants to go take a look at it, you can see exactly what it is on Connect wallets, on social logins, and the code. The beauty is and the code it takes to put these in, right? So just want to heads up, everyone can see my playground, right? You should see button component. We're still good.
Yeah, yeah. You can still
Cool,
see the screen.
perfect, perfect. All right, so beautiful. I love that chat's answering. Thank you, chat. I love you. Um, with our button components, right? Simple, super simple. This is an example of a connect wallet button that we can click on. And we can see a very clean and modern kind of style pop up. We know that sometimes this is where this might be a little bit too much, right? Where we have EOA wallets. We support over 350 different EOAs. So if you were to click here, you can actually search for tons and tons of different wallets that you might want to connect to your apps. We have our popular ones like MetaMask, and we also have social logins. This is what I mentioned before, right? If a user wants to log in with their Gmail account or Discord or Apple account, maybe they want to log in with Farcaster or Facebook, right? They can use these methods, have a wallet spun up for them, and then they're connected to your app. You want to do, if you maybe you don't want to go through Gmail or the Google login process, maybe you don't want to look your entire Google account, but maybe just your email address. We have that option for you as well. Phone numbers, passkeys. Think of thirdweb as almost any kind of tool set that you can think of in Web3 space. And then we can customize and drill down to the needs that you actually want, right? So what does
And
that
so
kind of
just
look
for
like?
just for clarity, they
Mhm.
essentially get this modal just by importing this code on the side right here, correct?
Exactly. Exactly. So for that model that we just saw, it's one line of code, right? It's this connect button component. Then we pass in something called a thirdweb client. This client is tied to our API keys. It's how we track usage and things like that. So I see that we have a question. Is the connect button free in pricing? Yes. Everything I'm going to show you today, except for engine, is part of our free tier, right? You can go ahead and go and start building and working with it today. So here's another kind of view on the modal, right? Is maybe we don't want EOAs, maybe we want only social logins. But here's another kind of way we can facilitate that, right? Um, every one of these components are highly customizable. You can customize the look and feel of every button. You can customize the look and feel of the UI. Maybe you don't even want to showcase that you're connecting with the MetaMask. Maybe you want to do it behind the scenes on behalf of your user. And this is how that would be done in this code snippet, right? The beauty of the playground, we give you all the tools you need to mess around, test, have fun with whatever kind of component you want to work with, and the code snippet needed to have that done for you. So if you guys haven't already, look at the playground, check it out. It's a really neat tool. It's free to use. There's no limits on how many times you can click the button, how many times you can switch out accounts, change logins, things like that. So feel free to use it.
I will be linking all the resources um, with this video everywhere that it's hosted. So just heads up, everyone.
Perfect, perfect. And so this is an example that I wanted to showcase in how customizable some of this items really is. And this doesn't even take into consideration the full depth of customizability on our connect button, right? So here you can still see the left and right kind of dividers. We have a image because everybody knows branding is important when you're building apps. Oh my God, my guy. He wants to be on stream today. Um, Branding is super important when you're building these apps. You have imagery and login information for all of this stuff. You know, you can specify, if you look on the left-hand side here, we've specified which ways, in this case, MetaMask and Coinbase, and then which social logins we want to support. And then, of course, we have our branding for our product that whenever a customer comes, they can feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that they're in the right place, right? They came and they looked at exactly in this case Web3 Warriors. They see this connect login and they go, okay, I'm in the right place. Crypto can be a little scary. This is just another way to showcase your brand and build that trust with your community instead of just, you're plain everybody gets the exact same modal, right? So branding is huge here, and it's something that we allow everyone who uses our connect modals to do. You don't have to pay for it. This is something that you can do out of the box. Now comes another fun little feature
Can
about
I
Connect, right?
can I pause
Go
you
ahead.
there actually for a second? We got a couple questions in the chat.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
can read them to you. Um,
Go ahead.
I think you already mentioned this one is the connect button free in pricing too. I think
Yes,
yes.
it is.
Um, we got a question here. Uh, where is the passkey hosted on my server or third web? If you
So
can
passkey is, yeah, passkey will be hosted. The passkey itself is through the provider that you use, right? Namely, it's usually either Apple or your device that you have your passkey on. The wallet for that passkey is actually sharded, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. With our in-app wallets, three different sharding, where one's hosted on the user device, one's hosted on ThirdWeb servers, and one's hosted in cloud infrastructure. Combined, they can remake the wallet. But yeah, that's kind of how passkeys work. It's essentially the same as using a passkey on your Mac, on a yeah, Mac is probably the device that most people are familiar with, right? With passkey
Yeah,
support. But yeah,
makes sense. Yeah, the secure enclave is securing the key for it, but there's those other components he
exactly.
was talking about. Yeah. Another question here. I think this is a very good tool, especially for devs not familiar to Web3, where you're building a developer community in Korea, especially for Web2 devs. Is there any tutorials, lecture videos? I think you guys have a bunch of resources on the Third website, correct? For all sorts
Yeah,
of this stuff.
so thirdweb.com is a great place to start. You can start looking at our site, looking at our docs. We have a very, very extensive YouTube channel as well. Sean Watasi is a great kind of face of Third Web. He makes amazing videos and use cases on how to use Third Web for X activity, right? How to use Third Web, make an NFT site, how to use Third Web to token gate, how to use Third Web with Engine, how to use Third Web for marketplaces. And almost any kind of question you could have, go to our YouTube channel, do a quick search, and you'll 90% sure you're going to get an answer in one of our videos.
Awesome. I'll be sure to link that as well. And then you can continue. I think that was the bulk of questions for now.
Perfect. No worries. All right, so pay. I want to talk about a little bit about pay. This is also available in our playground if you guys want to mess around with it. Like I mentioned, pay is ThirdWeb's answer to on-ramping in both from a credit card and as well as providing a swap interface inside of your app, right? One of the biggest losses is that we have people who come into your app and then all of a sudden they have to leave or to go and get more cryptocurrency, or they have to leave to go KYC, right? Or fiat transactions. All of this stuff is done within your app, within the modal. And this is a little bit of what that flow looks like. On the left-hand side, we see a option for a user to buy some ETH. We see that they want to use a credit card. And so once they go through it, they have a one-time KYC, and after that's complete, takes 2 minutes. And after that's complete, they'll see this screen with their payment method, and then they're able to confirm their purchase all within your app. They never have to leave, right? You can provide simple steps and drive traffic through your application instead of away from your application. So and at the end of the day, you get 70% of that transaction fee, right? Remember, ThirdWeb charges a 1% fee on all of these transactions, and you get 70% of that back as the developer. So win-wins all around. You help your users stay in your app. You help your users provide a simple on-ramping solution to your application, and you yourself are able to actually monetize your users in a different format if that's the way you want to go. This monetization is fully customizable. You can choose to opt out if you like. This is just something that ThirdWeb is also providing for its user base. And so next up, contracts, right? We've talked a little bit about front end. I want to go through contracts. I see that I am already almost halfway through the session. So I'm going to speed up just a little bit here, but contracts, as I mentioned, ThirdWeb has a whole host of pre-built contracts for you all. If you are building marketplaces, if you're building tokens for a DEX token, a meme coin, if you're building NFTs, we have contracts for you. If you want to mess with smart accounts, we have contracts for you. And coming out, we've also recently come out with modular contracts, which this is our definition of kind of, you can think of it as hooks that you can pull in and pull out of certain contracts. Maybe you don't want all the features of an NFT drop. Maybe you don't want people to be able to transfer, so you can take that ability out of your contract and add the ability for maybe you want a split to happen on that contract, right? So this is our take on that kind of being super customizable in our contracts on this front through modular contracts, right? So pre-built, they have their template. They have a whole set of features that are going to be useful for 90% of your use case. Modular contracts let you customize these sets and these pre-builts. So that's kind of the difference between these two today in our demo. I'll be walking you a little bit about the edition drop contract and how easy it is to deploy through thirdweb for that contract as well. Here, as I mentioned before, we are all about giving you the options and the customizability, right? So not only can you use some of our pre-builts, but you can also deploy your own contracts. And the beauty of it is that you never have to expose your private key to deploy a contract to thirdweb. We have a signature handshake process that happens between your machine and your thirdweb account. And so when you deploy these contracts, your private key, which from your wallet, which if you guys in Web3 know, is everything, right? If that gets leaked, if that gets exposed, all of a sudden, everything in that wallet can be gone. All of your assets, currency, tokens, all of it can be gone. And so as part of our security, we don't expose this private key at all when you guys deploy contracts through thirdweb's deploy function here. Just another thing to think about. If you are a Solidity developer, you know how big of a plus this is. And so coming up, we've talked about contracts. I want to talk a little bit about our backend here. Backend in terms of engine, right? This is our API fetch request endpoints that we have. And so I really like this image here describing on where engine actually lives in your tech stack. So we've talked about your front end, anything your user sees and interacts with. We've talked about the back end, such as your data processing, your SDK usage. And so engine will actually sit in between your backend and the blockchain layer itself. So if you have some data processing on your app and you want to do a blockchain interaction on, say, Monad, for example, you can do that through engine through a simple fetch request. If you're building on any sort of platform where we don't have a native SDK for it, guaranteed you can perform a fetch request on your chosen platform and still have the same functionality, right? That's really how amazing Engine is in its ability to be composable across a whole bunch of different tech stacks. So what does that look like? We actually have a URL example here at the top where we have your Engine URL and we have this endpoint for getting the balance of a wallet, right? Super common, super simple endpoint. You pass this over and that's it. You've interacted with the blockchain. You've read data from the blockchain, any sort of TypeScript, React. This is all through a API endpoint using fetch requests. So Engine is really, really useful in these sorts of instances. So again, going a little bit through these backend SDKs, we have a whole suite. I show this slide a lot because I want everyone who thinks about thirdweb to know that it's not a simple platform. It's not a single platform. It's not a single SDK. It's not a instance where you can only use it in one place. thirdweb is your full stack development solution, right? TypeScript, React Native. I haven't even talked about React Native. I used to be a mobile dev for Android with General Motors about 6 years ago now. And this would have been so useful in my development. We have Unity, Solidity, .NET. We're everywhere, guys. And so what does that kind of look like, right? I'm going to speed through these because I have that demo on what the interactions between TypeScript actually looks like. But as we talked a little bit about the front end stuff, right? The React stuff. We have UI components, the connect button. We have things like hooks to getting useful information, such as what's the currently connected account, what's the active account on your app, what's their balance, right? We can use these through React hooks as shown here. And then the cream of the crop, something that I think a lot of people are interested in is our Unity SDK. So through Unity, through our prefabs here, this is all you need. You have this simple prefab that you see on the right, and you fill in information such as what chain are you working on? Are you supporting gasless relayers? Are you doing wallet connect options? Do you want smart accounts, right? If you're familiar with Web3, smart accounts are essentially wallets that are controlled by a smart contract. So we have all of these setups and options available for you guys to use through our SDK for Unity. And if you look on the left-hand side here, this is actually a screenshot from one of our games that one of our in-house developers built. His name is Firekeeper. It took him, I believe, 2 to 3 weeks to build this game from scratch, right? He built every single interaction, every ability, every model in this game, and really knocked it out of the park. As you can see, there's no connect button UI. There's no transfer of coins that you see. This is something that we think Web3 games should look like. It's called Web3 Warriors. Guys, if you want to go take a look at it, just search up third Web3 Warriors, and you can actually play this game. It's available on Windows and Apple, I believe, on Mac machines. So you go ahead, download it, play around with it. Think of it as a Diablo clone, right? If you've played Diablo before, very similar play style. You can generate tokens in forms of in-game currency. You can do marketplace buys and sells. You can mint NFTs through your items and pets. It's a really great example on what's possible with Unity and Third Web together. So
So we
now it
have
comes to our
someone
tech demo. Go ahead.
we have someone in the chat that says I've played it, it's very fun.
Beautiful. Oh, Nico, I'm so happy that you were able to play it, man. Um, it is something that we take around just recently, this past, I believe February it was. I was at GDC, and I just let people play Web3 Warriors, and they had no idea they were playing a blockchain game. They had no idea that it was cryptocurrency, tokens, right? All of these kind of bad connotation buzzwords that people familiarize or associate with blockchain. They think scam. They think it's a rug pull. It's going to take all your money. And this is just one way where we can show that's not true, right? We're just people who are trying to build really cool experiences with on top of a stack that resonates with what we believe should be available in public ledger for the audience, right? Um, so yeah, people respond to it really well. I'm glad that you've had a good experience with it as well. And so if that doesn't urge anyone else to do it, I don't know what will. I mean, that's straight from your own community, guys. Web3 Warriors is really great. And so real quick here, this is what I want to go through in our in a few next slides is kind of building out our NFT mint site, right? This is a very basic example, but this covers kind of the most common use cases that people might want to do with blockchain. How do I mint an NFT, right? How do I have my users sign in with their wallet? How do I have my users mint an NFT? And then how do I maybe interact with the third web API or SDKs in getting that information from the blockchain, right? So I'm actually I've debated on two different styles of this. If you guys want, I can go through the kind of slides that I've prepared. Um, but if there's a more technical audience here today, I actually also have my code base set up so that you guys can see exactly where in the code this is happening. So we'll give it about 20-30 seconds for you guys to vote. One in the chat if you want the slides, two if you're more technical and want that code. Code base. All right, Kevin. I mean, you're the head here, so
That's right.
I
Let's go.
guess code base it is.
Let's get in there.
All right. So, let me drop in kind of what we're building here in the chat as well. You guys can go around, play around with it, and do whatever you want. This is all on testnet except for the pay stuff that's on Polygon. So I just be aware. In fact, I don't think you guys can actually purchase it. I think I locked it out. Hopefully, I don't want you guys sending any money for this demo. So I'm pretty sure I locked it out for you guys. So check it out. You can mess around with it. Code wise, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to first show you what that looks like when you have a blank Visual Studio, right? We have this kind of, if you're like me and you're a developer and you look at Visual Studio and you blank and you have nowhere to start, always remember this: NPX third web create. That's it. That's all you need. This is going to guide you in creating app, contract. It's going to guide you in if you're using Next.js, which is my preference, right? Super easy to spin up websites this way. The site that I clicked in the chat or linked in the chat rather was spun up through Next.js and Vercel. It's going to guide you on all of these things. So let me kind of show you what that looks like here. A few more slides and then we'll get into the code. Here, right, great example of what happens. You see this screen on what you want to create. In this case, we chose an app for our Mint site. We can provide some information such as what is the name of our app. In our instance, I chose Dino Drop. And then what do I want? What framework do I want to use? In this case, I chose Next. Again, we have support for Vite. I believe Svelte. And I'll have to double check that. You can see once you run this command exactly what frameworks we have supported as well. And so if you're familiar with these kinds of coding, the next step is always kind of happens in every kind of template, every kind of framework that you use. You cd into your newly created project, and to start running it, you just do yarn dev or npm run dev if that is your preferred package management. And so once this happens, this is our next JS framework. This is the layout of our app and kind of what you'll see from here. Let me go ahead and show you what that looks like code wise. Just to be sure, everyone can see my Visual Studio now. Yes.
Yep. Yep. We can see
Perfect. Perfect. So on the left hand side here, we have our traditional, layout or kind of structure of our project. The key places to note here is this layout file. This layout file wraps our entire app. If you're familiar with more traditional React app or another framework, this is usually your driver file, right? Which is also known as your index or even a main.tsx. And so you just want to find the file that wraps your entire app, because here is where we are going to provide something called the third web provider. Now, the third web provider, which I've highlighted here at line 22. Can I zoom in on this? Make it a little bit easier for you guys. So our third web provider here is, think of providers as this is what will pass data from a top level down to any lower level. So this is why it's important to have your third web provider wrapped around your entire app. So that way your entire app has access to chain information, has access to wallet information, all of these great things. So make sure you have your third web provider wrapped around your entire app. In our case, it's in this layout file. In other instances, it may be in your index, it may be in your main.tsx, whatever your main driver file for your project is, that's where this third web provider will live. And so after that, we come through our page. Everyone is probably familiar with this, right? This is our very basic page of what our app is and what we're building. In this instance, I'm actually going to go back and show you all. You didn't see that, that's fine. our our app, right? So this is what we're building. This is what we need for, in this instance, we need some Connect components, right? So we have our Connect wallet. For example, this is the kind of default that we had before, and you can see all of the different options. Or we can also have our social logins, right? Maybe we don't want AOAs and we only want socials. This is another way to do it, and what that looks like in our app. So for that process, I actually have this area here called sign in components. I'll share this code base with you all so that you can go through it, look through all of the functions, components, the way I set things up as well. So that way you can, it's a little bit easier to learn and understand what's going on here. So we go into our sign in components, we see that we have two options, right? We have our connect button and our social login. So for example, if we want our connect button, go ahead and uncomment this, and we'll see this one line of code is actually responsible for putting our connect button up at the very top. And then we rerun this app so that you guys can see what that looks like here. go. Sign out. So here, for example, right, we've added our Connect wallet, but if you noticed in my code, I had commented out the social wallet section. So if we go back to my code, for social logins, we can define it's the same Connect button component, but this time we're defining what social wallets, right? What social wallets we want in our app. So here we have our wallets. It's an array list. In this example, we're saying we want to be able to authenticate through Google, Apple, Facebook, phone, Discord, email, Farcaster. And so once I've uncommented this here, which I have, save it, and then we'll go back to our app, and we see here that we now have our social login button, which is really, really great. And it has all of the different login forms that we've mentioned. So that's it, right? In the last 2 minutes, I've told you how to perform wallet connection for your users in 2 different ways, and that's really how fast and easy it is with thirdweb using our connectable components to build out these kind of flows for your users, right? This whole app was built by myself in an hour or so. And the majority of it was spent trying to find AI images on on different machine programs for the NFTs and whatnot. So moving right along, we'll go ahead and we'll connect a wallet here. Oh, can everyone see the screen? We good? Want to make sure everyone can see.
I think most people can, so
Yeah, I can see
Okay.
it.
yeah, I think
Okay.
you can continue. I think we just have one person who's struggling.
No worries, no worries. This is recorded for you all, and I know Kevin is eager to share that recording with everyone. So if you can't see right
Yes.
now, I'm hope you're content with my pretty face for the rest of the session. Um, so here going on, we have our the rest of our app, right? We have our claim conditions, have our buttons here. And to actually interact with all of this stuff, we need contracts, right? We need to build out our contracts. So let me show you what that kind of looks like, what that process looks like here. This is my Dino contract. And how did I get here? Well, we remember this screen where we talked about all the different kind of contracts that thirdweb allows you to have. I chose here in our instance an edition drop. Edition contracts are 1155 contracts. 721, it would be your NFT contracts. And so we have 2 different versions, NFT drop, NFT collection, and then edition and edition drop. The difference between the two is anytime you see the word drop in it, that facilitates lazy minting. So that way you don't have to pay upfront for having your assets on a collection, right? By lazy minting, you're not minting the NFT until a customer actually purchases it. So that's really great for cost savings for you all. So just a little kind of heads up on those different kind of contract types. So as I said, for our demo, I chose the edition drop, and it's going to take you into this screen here, which if I force refresh, it'll probably go a little bit faster for our use case. Here we go. And here we have all our information. On the left-hand side, it tells you about our contract. You can get a quick overview on the functions, on some of the code base for our contract. If you have a need for, well, I want to call lazy mint. How do I do that? This is a really great way for you to find out the code snippets, right? This is if I was using JavaScript, if I'm using React, here's another way to do it, and so on. So here, I'm gonna go ahead and click on this deploy now button. And on the right hand side, you can see all of our contract metadata. So we're gonna fill in our name, what symbol we want for, or what image we want for our contract, symbols, descriptions, royalties. This is if you buy and sell through marketplaces, what percentage of that secondary sell do you want to which address, right? So the recipient address is the receiver of these percentages. And here you can specify as much or as little percentage as you want for these cells. And then primary cells, maybe we have a lot of people where primary cells go through a split contract and then they are divvied up there. This is something where you can specify here what wallet address do you want all of your primary cells. Primary cells, remember, are your first time cells. on these NFTs and where they go. And we have other options such as what chain do you want to deploy on. And in my instance, I chose Sepolio because I know if I'm through my testing, if I go through a Ethereum testnet, right, such as Sepolio, then I know that it's going to work once Monad releases, and I can just do some simple changes for that. So once you deploy, you're going to have a few transactions. There's going to be one that costs gas, which is the actual contract deployment, and one gasless that will add it to your dashboard for ease of use later on. So I'm not going to go ahead and I'm not going to deploy that contract, but I'm going to go back to the one that I've already deployed, show you a little bit about what this dashboard is and how it works. So I click on this little NFT tab here. Excuse me, my throat's a little dry.
So anything they deploy through the third web, they'll be able to see on this dashboard.
Exactly. So
Awesome.
this contract I've deployed through thirdweb, and I've also uploaded some NFTs for this contract through thirdweb as well. So through this dashboard, if I want to upload a single NFT, I can do that here following a very simple GUI UI interface. This is great for all you low to no code users out there. I mean, you're developers too. Just because you don't code at the low at the level or at the TypeScript level, React level, that doesn't mean you're not a developer. You can still call yourself a developer through this tool set. I mean, I don't discriminate against any low to no code users. I honestly think that an industry as a whole is where we're moving, right? ChatGPT, AI, this is kind of where it's going to push us into that field. So you're still a developer using this. Don't feel bad if you do use this. It's perfectly valid, perfectly okay in the industry, especially on third web. We built it because we believe, hey, we need an easier way. Sometimes people mess up code wise. We need an easier way for people to be able to upload their NFT. So fill out this information, click lazy mint, send the transaction, and you have your NFT up and running on your contract. Now, with NFTs, there's something called claim conditions, right? And even with tokens, this exists with tokens as well. So claim conditions, you've lazy minted your NFT, right? But now, how do you control who's able to mint, how many they're able to mint, and the price of that NFT, right? So that's done again through the dashboard. If you click on the NFT itself, you'll get this handy little interface. Then you can click on claim conditions. And so here is where you can edit when do you want this phase to start? How many are you going to drop? What's the price? These can be either native tokens. For example, if you're on Sepolio, it'd be Sepolio ETH, or even custom ERC20 tokens that you guys built out. If you have your own ERC20 contract, you can specify it here, and you can charge people in your own token currency, which is really great for if you're building an entire world or ecosystem around NFTs. And then we have how many per wallet can a user purchase through this contract and this NFT, right? You can limit it to as little as one, or you can say, I want the users to be able to purchase as many NFTs as they want, as is in this case. Once you build out your claim condition, be sure to hit save, and that way it will trigger again an on-chain transaction. And anyone who looks at your contract can see exactly what phases were built, when and where. And then if you don't click save, you're in for a little bit of a rude awakening because the claim conditions won't actually be active until you save the phase that you're working on. So just as a heads up there.
So once they save, can they edit it with another save, or is it like a one-time?
Yeah, so a couple different options here. Once you hit save, is we have this edit button. And if I click on this edit button, I can see that I can edit any and all the fields here. I can change when I want it to start, how much it costs, how many I want to drop, all of that great stuff. I can also, if I were to collapse that here, I can add a phase. If I add another phase, the end time of the previous phase will be the start time of the next phase, right? You can only have one phase active at a time. So I can say, hey, I want everyone in my allow list to be able to mint before the public, right? So I can actually, if I click on add phase, I can say, hey, I want to create an allow list only phase. And then once the public phase starts, that's when my allow list phase will end, right? So it's very sequential. It goes 1, 2, 3, as you add these on, the phase start times are going to be what dictate when one phase starts and the previous one. Cool. Love the questions. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, now that we have our contract set up, how do we actually claim on this lovely page, right? How do I actually, in my code, write out a button or some sort of logic that when I click traditional claim, it will pop up my MetaMask and ask my user to confirm the transaction. So to do that, very simple. I'm going to actually go here to my mint area. And then we have a couple of prerequisites, right? We've created our contract. We have our user sign in. So now how do we interact with this kind of stuff? So in order to interact with the user who signed in, simple hook, account equals use active account, and that's it. You have your user. For the contract, almost just as simple, right? We have this extension called get contract. And what this does is you define your ThirdWeb client object, which is super simple to set up. Again, this is your API key setup stuff in the at the very beginning. We define what chain we're working with and what the address of our contract is. Once we have this, anytime we reference contract, we're working with a contract that was just deployed. And then after that, we can start working on these buttons. Here, I actually added a little math generator to make it random between the 3 different NFTs to see which ones you guys actually get. And for the button itself, this is it. This is what, 10 lines of code, 9 lines of code. And that's only because of formatting, because I don't like long lines. So we have this claim button. We specify what is the contract address that we're working with, what is the chain. And then we have these parameters such as 1155, this one number, which is the quantity. How many am I allowing this user to mint? It should match your claim condition. And then what token ID, right? In this case, in the contract, I had token ID 0, 1, and 2. I had 3 different possible NFTs that you guys can get. And because I made it random, I'm just referencing my random line here, right? The math.random here. So once you have this, this is it. This is all you need. All of a sudden, you're interacting with the blockchain. You don't have to mess with any kind of low-level Solidity code anymore, right? This is just a UI component called claim button. Super simple, super easy to set up. And if you want pay, right, we can do the exact same thing. It's also a claim button. We can also style it. If I pass in this unstyled tag, I can style my button to whatever I want. In this case, all I'm doing is adding the green background to it. If I want my pay modal, right? And I'll show you what that looks like. If I want it to pop up the actual NFT that my user is going to get, right? What is the name of it? What is the image I want to showcase for that NFT? I can do that as well. Again, and that's an extra 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of code, right? 15 lines in total, and you have your buttons. What we've already gone through what the traditional claim kind of looks like. So if I went claim with pay real quick, it's going to pop up and ask me to switch, because remember, pay is only available on mainnets. And this is what that looks like, right? Like, look how pretty and on brand this is. I know exactly what I'm looking at. I know what I'm paying for. If I choose a payment method, I can do credit card, I can do crypto, and I haven't left my app. There's no new tabs that I opened up. This is all within my app, all embedded. And this is one of the reasons why thirdweb pay is so powerful. So what about interacting with the blockchain, right? I know we only have 3 minutes left on this session, but I want to show you just how quick it is. For example, if I have this button here and I want to view all my dinos, I want to get all the NFTs that I actually purchased and own. I click that button. I see that I have this NFT here that I own, which matches the state in my contract. What does that look like in code? Very simple. One extension, one call, and it's just get owned NFTs. And this will take in my contract. Remember that we got earlier on? It will go and iterate through the count, how many I want. Maybe I only want to get a subset of NFT so I can paginate, right? That's a very common thing. If I want to get a subset, then I can specify, hey, I only want 10 of the owned NFTs that I want. And what's the address, right? Again, we're using this account variable, which comes from our use active account hook that we specified earlier on for interacting with our connected wallet. And that's it. we now have a list of NFTs that we own. I've done some React stuff to set display to true only when I click the button, and false when I click it again, things like that. But yeah, that's it. That's you're interacting with the blockchain. You're now using the Web SDK to pull information, read data, write data, with our claim buttons, and that's it. You're good to go. You've completed your end-to-end application development with thirdweb. I didn't have to use 3 different stacks. I used everything through thirdweb, and it was, the lowest, honestly, the lowest code effort, right? Each line is very minimal, um, and it looks great. It looks very in place. It's on brand, um, and there we go. There's our min app, right? Super simple, super useful, and that's it.
Awesome, man. Well, this was, I think we had a lot of people really enjoying it. I saw a lot of comments in here. If anyone has any questions here at the end, feel free to unmute and ask or throw it in the chat. Yeah. And then Joe just sent the repo again. I'll note all of these resources will be available when the video is posted as well.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'll give it a moment if anyone has any questions here. Yeah, and thanks for coming on today, Joe. This was
Of
super
course.
informative.
I know I cut it a little close on our time here. But if anyone has questions, feel free. Let me know. I'll be here for a little bit, available.
Yeah, I got a couple of minutes, so we don't need a super hard stop.